Hello and welcome to episode 372 of the video show. Today I'm joined by Rob Kearsey from RMK Marketing, and we're going to be talking all about social media marketing, in particular the paid advertising that goes into videos and other forms of video adverts as well. This is a video show after all, so we do have to talk about videos at some point. But we also talk about Rob's career, how he got started in radio, and the people he met through that. So it's a really good conversation, really quite interesting, and I do hope you enjoy it. So Rob, welcome to the video show. Let us know a little bit about what you do before we sort of really get into it.
So I'm a social media marketing specialist. I run a social media marketing agency called RMK Marketing. So I've kind of been in the social media space for about 8.5, 9 years now. I actually kind of got into it after coming out of uni. I used to work at Absolute Radio. That was kind of my first sort of social media job.
Wow, that's cool.
I was running one of their show's Twitter account, so Rock and Roll Football. So I'd go up to the studio on a Saturday, and back then, Ian Wright was hosting it, the Arsenal football.
Yeah, I think I listened to that. Yeah, I love him. I'm not an Arsenal fan, but I always liked Ian Wright because he had a good personality, and he was a nice guy.
He was really, he was great to work with, and it was weird to think that he was kind of a colleague, effectively. And you'd always have kind of various sort of football people coming in. Like, I was quite excited when Alan Kirbishley came in, the former Cheltenham West Ham manager, because I always thought he should have been the England manager at one point or another. But yeah, so from Absolute Rock and Roll Football, I kind of moved to TUI Travel, the travel company, running some of their brand social channels, and now I moved to a media agency, and then back into the travel space. And then I was only back in the travel space for about 6 months, and COVID hit, and I kind of saw the writing on the wall, really. And then I started RMK, which has been going on for about sort of two and a half years now.
Very nice. What was that like setting up in COVID? Because we've had a lot of guests that when COVID hit, it was like, right, now's the time I do it, because they found themselves either on furlough or made redundant. So how was it setting up during COVID and during lockdown?
You know what? I think you would think that COVID was probably the worst possible time to set up a business, but in a way that kind of the stars aligned a little bit, because I didn't really have... I mean, I had options, but it was sort of... I could have looked for another job, but at that point, everyone was kind of locked down. The job market was very slow. So I kind of thought, let's give it a try. I know my stuff. I've been in the social space for ages. I know what I'm doing, and I've worked in an agency as well. So I kind of know the mechanics of generating clients. So let's just give it a go. And the first sort of six months were quite slow because we were still in COVID. People were still... they didn't want to spend too much, but kind of once COVID lifted, that's when, the sort of floodgates opened, and I started getting lots more business. And, there's a lot of learning that goes into it as well. When I started, I didn't really know about networking, and now sort of 2 years later, it feels like I'm going to networking meetings sort of 4 or 5 times a week. And it's also about sort of, practicing what you preach. I'm a social media expert. I've kind of got to practice that. I've got to do what I say, and that will kind of bring in new leads. But it was, the stars aligned for me. I think with regard to COVID, it was, it wasn't necessarily the best time to start a business, but it kind of worked out in the end.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people have said similar things. Like it sort of pushed them to do it. Like you said then about terms of like practicing what you preach. So what is it that you do that helps you sort of follow up on that? So for me, I create loads of videos. So I put the video show out. It's a whole 20-minute episode, and then I put little clips out as well. So I put videos out all the time. So what kind of stuff do you do to make sure that you're always sort of showing it, that you know what you're talking about?
I think it's about, a lot of it is about consistency of posting. It's something that I talk to business owners a lot, and they really struggle with the consistency of posting. It's kind of what to post, when to post, that sort of thing. So I obviously know to do that, and I consistently post out on my social media channels of choice. And in terms of the right content, having worked in the space for so long, I do know roughly what works. I also know sort of how to show personality in my posts. I know how to generate engagement through asking questions and responding to comments and producing webinars and things like that. So I think it was kind of when I first started, it was kind of really pushing myself to do what I know, basically.
And is it harder doing it for yourself than it is for someone else? So for me, I think I don't know. I think some people would overthink it when they're trying to do it for themselves. They're like, oh, like you mentioned personality there as well. Like, how do you get your personality across? So both those questions. Sorry.
Yeah, I think you can overthink it. I'm quite lucky in that ideas often spring to me in the most random times. I could be in the shower and I think of a post idea which I can do, or it's actually often speaking to people where they say something and I think, oh, that's a good post idea. I'm going to put that into my content calendar. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's about. It's kind of, I don't really know. Yeah, it's about that really. Lost my train of thought. Sorry.
No worries. We'll cut that bit out. That's all right.
Yeah. No, that'd be good.
What was the other bit I said as well?
It's about showing personality.
Yeah. Personality.
Yeah. So I think showing person. I watched one of your other shows with Martin, and he was kind of talking about he used to be quite boring and corporate, and I think a lot of people think that they kind of try and bring their sort of the corporate side in, and their content gets very, very boring. But I think it's just about showing a kind of human side. It's just about kind of showing what you do, what you enjoy, what you like doing sometimes in your personal life. I think LinkedIn is can be quite a straitjacketed channel in a way, but I think it's always nice to I always like it when I see pet pictures and people, they're out doing runs or they're doing charity events or things like that. I think it's always nice to see that, and that's how you show your personality really. And from a brand point of view, it's about kind of sharing those sharing the stories about people who work for you.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Like, I made a video about this actually, about how LinkedIn has changed over the course of the last few years. I think especially sort of starting with when COVID hit. It's a very COVID-centric episode so far, this video. But when COVID hit, like, LinkedIn started to change and it became a lot more personal, a lot more about feelings, a lot more stuff about mental health and stuff like that. And I think it probably just reflects the way businesses are thinking. But yeah, have you noticed that as well? Like, how it's become more Facebooky, I think, and then Facebook become a bit more
I think there is the common comment which you do see from people sometimes who don't particularly like where LinkedIn has gone, is that that's a Facebook business, post, it shouldn't be on LinkedIn, that sort of stuff. I think partly it's a bit of a migration from Facebook. A lot of people, especially sort of in my generation, don't tend to use Facebook as much. I mean, I use it obviously for my clients, but personally I don't really use Facebook. But I use LinkedIn an awful lot. And I think it's kind of partly that migration. I think LinkedIn is kind of filling a little bit of a gap, where Facebook was for a certain generation, really. I'm
fascinated to know which generation you are in now.
To be, I don't even know. I think I'm Gen Z. I think I'm Gen Z. I was born in 1989.
Whoa, so was I.
There we go. August 23rd.
I'm older than you. Wow. 7th of June, me. Wow. So when you were saying like Absolute Radio, I was like, I was probably listening to Absolute Radio then as well. Because that was like my radio station of choice. Because they had they had Frank Skinner on as well at that point.
Yeah. I mean, the guys I work with. So I worked with Russ Williams, who was another very been in the industry for a long time.
XFM before that, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he was he was a good one to work with. Absolute Radio it was a fantastic job. It was one of those things where you just kind of you didn't really want it to end because you're coming in, you're shaking hands with Ian Wright, and you had Piers Morgan on the phone, and it was a fantastic time.
Yeah. Oh, nice. So going back to like what you do, we said we wanted to talk about like paid advertising as well and how that all works. So when people sort of think, oh, I need to do paid advertising, is that something they think that I need to do that, or is that something you usually advise to them that they do?
It kind of depends where the business is in their journey, really. I think when there's I'm talking to quite a small business, they tend to know that yes, you can run ads on Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, etc. But they don't tend to know the extent that you can kind of use them for. If you're talking to a much more developed business, then yes, they understand those things. But I think for me, I wouldn't. There are lots of scenarios where I would advise that they run paid advertising, but I think you do have to be a certain size of business. I think there are. If you're a business and you can only spend £100 a month, that's your absolute maximum budget, then there's no real point running paid ads because you aren't really going to get anything back. There is little things you can maybe do, like boost some of your content, put some money behind your content to increase reach and engagement in those posts. But in terms of generating leads or sales, you probably won't if you've got a very small budget. So that's at that point where I'd say you don't necessarily want to kind of think about running lead generation ads, for example. You want to maybe put that into post boost or something like that.
So what size should you get to before you when should you start thinking about it? What size?
I think if you've got other marketing channels set up, so you're established and you've got your social media channels and you've got a decent sized following on there. You've maybe got some email marketing set up. You've got your SEO is working well. You may be running some small search ads on Google as well. I think that's probably when you want to kind of start running it. And if you've kind of got £300-500 per month to spend on running ads, that's kind of when you want to. That's kind of the minimum ad spend that I would suggest. Looking to run sort of lead generation ads or sales ads, or putting a lot into your paid social, because otherwise it just won't go. It just won't do what you want it to do.
It's interesting you said you should have other stuff already in the background. So you should have SEO working well for you. You should have that following already. And I see that with the businesses that I work with that are using ads, it's we've already got that. So that's good that's sort of, that ticks those boxes. What kind of stuff should they be putting out? Is it sort of is it more about what they want to get from those ads? Or should they sort of just be doing, let's just get people to sign?
I think that the objective is always the key with any paid social campaign. It's right. What do you want to get out of this campaign? Do you want to bring more leads into your business? Do you want to bring more sales into your business? Do you want to increase your brand's brand awareness? Do you want a certain piece of content to get a lot more reach? Do you want to drive traffic to your website? That is kind of the first starting point. Whenever I'm having a conversation with someone about paid social, it's right. What do you want to get out of it? You shouldn't just want to run paid social just for paid, just to run ads. You need to have an objective, because if I know what the objective is, then I can develop a strategy for that objective that will hit that objective. But that is what your first thing has got to be, right, what's the objective? What are you looking to get out of it?
And then I think I know the answer to this, but which platform should they be advertising on? I think I know the answer. I'm just asking you.
It depends on the type of brand that they are. Obviously, if you're a more B2B brand, then you probably look at LinkedIn. If you are an e-commerce brand, then you probably look at Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. It does depend on the brand, also the demographics as well. So, if you've got an older audience, then you might look at something like Facebook, because Facebook does now skew older. Whereas, if you're going after a very young demographic, then you might look at TikTok. If you've got a very niche audience, you might look at Pinterest, because niche marketing is you can get a lot out of niche marketing on Pinterest. So it depends on the brand, depends on the demographic, depends on a lot of things before you kind of decide on that channel mix.
Yeah, it's interesting you said like Facebook skews towards older demographic as well, because like if you got the copy right, my mum would click on anything. Because like I get spam messages from her. It's like, Mum, you must have clicked on something. It's like
I think
password.
There is always an element with all the social channels and their history of them starting out quite young and being the hip new thing on the block, where the sort of 16, 17, 18-year-olds come and spend all their time on, and then gradually their mums come onto the platforms and they go off. And then, as we've kind of got to with Facebook, their nan and granddads come onto the platform and they definitely stay off. And there is kind of an element of that with even Instagram and TikTok, to be honest. TikTok, with its popularity, is becoming a much more broad channel with a much more broad demographic. It's not just sort of 14, 15-year-olds dancing on TikTok anymore. It is, your mum's on there.
Yeah, you'll see the shift again, like where it just something else will come along and all the younger people will shift onto that.
Yeah,
and it'll be slightly better at doing something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. In terms of like the paid advertising, again, like, what platforms are you sort of noticing are most effective?
I think, again, it depends on the objective and it depends on the brand. But I think we're in a really interesting space at the moment with the social media channels, because for so long it was Facebook is kind of, the majority of the activity that I ran was on Facebook, because obviously you have Instagram that is part of Meta. So you can run ads across Facebook and Instagram through the Meta business platform. And that would always be, that normally 90% of the time that would be the channel that you'd recommend. You'd go, that's the main channel, and then any other activity you run would kind of be a secondary channel. We're now at a situation where all of the other brands, they've kind of their infrastructure in terms of ads is very similar to Facebook. They've basically kind of copied what Facebook has done.
It's effective.
Because it worked. And you're now in a position where I think a lot of them have kind of not necessarily caught up, but there are definite, I wouldn't necessarily always go to Facebook in terms of my suggestion for a brand to run advertising on. I think this autumn winter Q4 season is going to be really interesting, because I think for the first time ever, really, TikTok is going to take some ad spend from Facebook. There are brands who will have run advertising on Facebook and Instagram over the past few years for their Black Friday campaigns, and they will either completely come off Facebook and go to TikTok, or they'll split their budgets. So TikTok is definitely, in terms of an ad platform, that is definitely kind of the real up and comer, and a lot of people are using it. But a lot of B2B brands are using LinkedIn. I'm actually running quite a lot of activity on Twitter at the moment, which is not a channel necessarily that in the past I have run a huge amount of activity on. It's kind of third or fourth on the list of platforms that you'd run paid activity on. But now, again, their sort of ad platform has improved over the years. And there are brands who are kind of coming to me, looking at Twitter, and I'm going, that is a channel, depending on what your objective is, that is a channel that should be able to, you should get results from.
Yeah, I think I've had this conversation with someone else before, and I think that like the most effective ones are the ones where it kind of feels like it's seamless. So like on LinkedIn, you see a post, and it'll be so like, it will look like an article, or it'll look like another video, so it'll look like it just belongs there. So I think that's when that it's effective, when you don't realise it's an advert. And like the opposite of that for me is YouTube ads. So I get the same. So it's the same company. They're 3 different videos, and it runs, I reckon, on 95% of all the videos I watch on YouTube, and I watch a lot of YouTube videos. So I am sick of it, because like it's been following me for like 2 months, same one, again and again and again and again. So I blocked that ad, all 3 of those ads, so I won't see them. I was doing that this morning. I was just like, I cannot do it anymore. Like, I'm sick of it, and I know, and I just get to the point where I skip it anyway. So I only watch the first 5 seconds and I skip. But I think like YouTube needs to do some work in terms of making those feel, and it's hard because like YouTube, you're going to watch that video and it's like, right, before you watch that video, watch this video. And I know that people within YouTube videos, so they have sponsors like for themselves, they do a better job of it because they make it some of them make it seamless.
I think
so. It's like part of the video.
I mean, yeah, that's a problem I've noticed on YouTube. I think, for years, you've always kind of when a client comes to me and says, right, we've got some creative for a paid ad, we've got a video. A lot of the time it'd be kind of, an edit of their TV ad, or, a really kind of corporate video that's sort of 2 or 3 minutes long. And I think a lot of the channels have kind of, they have started to get away with that, especially TikTok. If you scroll through TikTok, you cannot, it'll take you a few seconds to differentiate between an ad and an organic post. And that is part of that platform's popularity, in that, I've spoken to TikTok reps and they always say, make sure your ad creative looks like an organic post, because that is what people are expecting on the platform. They don't want to see an ad. But I think with YouTube, when I go on there, I do see a lot of very kind of TV addy.
Yeah, I think it's harder because like on YouTube, you're there to watch a particular video, or you click on a particular video and then it plays another video. Whereas on TikTok, it's always a mystery of what's going to be next. So like it could be a sponsored ad, but like if it feels like it belongs on TikTok, then it won't feel like as intrusive. So yeah, it is harder, and I can see that. But I think if like I'm played the same 3 adverts from the same company for months on end, it feels like months. It's probably like 2 weeks or something. But I just get sick of it. So maybe just change it up a bit. And
I think they might need to change their targeting as well, because it looks like you're in some sort of retargeting audience that.
Yeah, it definitely. Yeah, because it's music for creators, so people who make videos. So I'm not going to say the name of the company, but I will not be using them because I've already got someone. But I've already, they've annoyed me. But I think like there's only like I can remember like 1 or 2 videos where I'm like, it's caught my attention and I've clicked on it. But maybe it's just sort of they're just trying to get so you remember them. So at some point when you're ready to buy, that's when you do it. But I just think if they sort of mix it up a little bit, then
I think that that is kind of one of the things about video ads on paid video ads, is that it's not necessarily, you aren't always kind of looking for necessarily the conversion straight away. It's about recalling, will people recall your message and your brand, and then maybe they'll search for you on Google later, and then they'll come and buy.
Like I end up trusting certain brands because like maybe I'll see their YouTube ad and then maybe I'll hear somebody that I trust, like it's a sponsor on a podcast, for example. So I sort of think, I've heard it in 2 different places, or like you see it somewhere else. So like if you're seeing it a few different places, but not all the time, it's just sort of like there in the background. Eventually you kind of get to the point where like, oh yeah, I know them. And then it's like, oh look, when you need that service. So if I needed music for videos and I was going to move from who I'm using, it's like, oh yeah, I know them. And then, if I go to that video, there might be a discount code for it. So I just think there may be cleverer ways of doing it rather than just like pummeling someone.
They need to. I think they need to take a look at their targeting.
Yeah,
definitely.
Nice. Cool. So if people want to get in touch with you about helping them out on their social media or paid ads, because we talk a lot about that, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
So that would actually be on LinkedIn. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Rob Kearsey. Also, we've got a brand page, RMK Marketing. If you search for that, please do come along and follow that. Those are the kind of best places to reach me. Also rmkmarketing.co.uk as well. If you want to kind of have a look on our website, we've got loads of good case studies and testimonials up on there. I think, one of the things I'm looking to do is, obviously I'm a business, I want to make money. But at the same time, I do want to help people. I do think there are a lot of questions about social media that people kind of struggle to find a forum to ask them. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do at the moment. I'm planning on having a second webinar in mid-November as well on paid social. So if you follow me on LinkedIn, the announcement of that will be up there in a few days, and you're more than welcome to come along. It'll be completely free.
Lovely. I do have another question off the back of what you just said as well.
Cool.
So you mentioned you've got a LinkedIn page and you've got a LinkedIn profile. If you're going to post something from it, which is more effective? And then is it worthwhile having a LinkedIn page for your business as well?
I think, again, so I use my LinkedIn profile and my LinkedIn page differently. So I use my LinkedIn page as, I kind of put my testimonials and case studies and sort of industry news up on there. It's kind of, it's a place where people kind of generally sort of find out about the brand and also kind of what's going on in the social media space. Whereas I use my personal LinkedIn page more for kind of, I give out tips and ideas about. So, for instance, yesterday I did a post on social media scheduling because I'd had a couple of questions about sort of when is the best time to post in a couple of one-to-ones I'd had. So I put that out there. So I'll put polls up on there where I'll ask people's opinion, and I also use it to kind of put my own kind of put me out there effectively, kind of what I do, not necessarily just businessy type stuff, but what I enjoy doing. So I'm a big cricketer. Well, I'm not very good, but I like playing. So I kind of I use it as kind of a personal portal, I suppose, whereas the brand page is more of a brand portal, a portal into the kind of the brand and the sort of more businessy side of things that I do.
Nice. Okay, cool. So in terms of you being a big cricketer, I would say I'm a big footballer in that respect because I like playing it, but I'm rubbish at it. So
I used to play football years and years ago when I was a kid, and I used to I used to enjoy it. I was an annoying winger. I just get, because I was quick. I just used to get the ball and run with it. But unfortunately, I'm not fit enough for football anymore. But cricket, you just sort of stand there for a little while, and then the ball comes to you, and do a little bit of running every now and again.
Nice, cool. So thank you very much for coming onto the show. Really do appreciate it. And if anyone wants to get in touch with Rob, I'll put all the links in the show notes below this for you to get in touch. I would highly advise it. Definitely knows what he's doing. Thanks so much for watching. Please check out the other videos on this channel as well. There's loads of different conversations, loads of different things that I talk about on other episodes of the video show. And if you've got any questions for future episodes, just let me know. You can email me, office@redbookproductions.co.uk, or just connect with me on LinkedIn and ask me a question on there. Cheers.